everyone. Today I have with me author Brad Ricca, and Brad wrote this book, Mrs. Sherlock Holmes. And I was so excited to read this book, Brad. And I'm not even a Sherlock Holmes person, but thank you so much for being here with me. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, I've had this book for a while. I had ordered it. It made some kind of a list on Goodreads because that's where I usually get my books from. So I just ordered them and then I set them on a pile because I read so many books. And I got to it and it did not disappoint me. I just knew this was going to be a great book. And I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this book. It was amazing.
Oh, thanks very much.
And I love historical fiction, but this wasn't fiction. Okay, historical fiction is my genre. This wasn't fiction because there was no fictional characters, but I love the fact that I learned so much because I wouldn't call it a history book, but I wouldn't call it historical fiction, and I wouldn't call it a thriller. I don't know. What do you call it?
I don't know what to call it. And I've been, going around telling people about it. And, some people are like, is this a biography or is this and it kind of isn't because there's not a lot we know about the main person. So when I was writing it, I kind of approached it as a mystery. So that's kind of how I've been telling people it is. It's a mystery with, all facts, but a lot of things are up to the reader to kind of figure out at the end.
Yeah, and so for everybody who hasn't read it yet, it's the true story of a woman who ended up being the first district attorney in the United States, female United States district attorney, and her name, and I have here, her name, she was born Grace Winterton.
Yeah, she was. She
Okay.
had a bunch of names.
I know. I was
Winterton,
like,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
And then she became, and I don't even want to attempt the last name. I'll let you do that.
I think it's Quackenbush.
Bush.
Yeah.
Bush.
Bush, yeah.
Okay, I saw two different ways on Wikipedia, so I don't know. That I had down two different spellings, and then the name I guess she's the most known for is Humstead or Humiston.
Yeah.
Humiston, yeah, and so she basically is this amazing woman who gets involved in solving crimes in New York City. But what I found the most amazing thing about her is that she was a well-off woman. To me, it seemed like she didn't need to work. I don't know. Do you think she needed to work? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So she didn't need to work, and she decides to go to law school, and she gets through law school in a record amount of time, and then just starts taking on these cases that kind of a mystery and kind of stumbles upon some of them and kind of... Don't you feel like they just kind of, some of them she just stumbles upon, and then others, people actively look for her to solve. But I love the fact that in the book, when somebody was interviewing her, she didn't like being called Mrs. Sherlock Holmes because she says that there was actually a way to solve crime. She didn't feel like it was just like a Sherlock Holmes way. She felt like she did it in a completely different way.
Yeah. She said to the interviewer, she's like, "Well, I've never read Sherlock Holmes." And,
Yeah.
Of course, everybody's read Sherlock Holmes, but she said, he would just come up with these magical solutions. And I love Sherlock Holmes. Don't get me wrong, but it's just he was always kind of smarter than everybody else, and he knew the way of thinking that would do it. And she said for her it was common sense. It was getting her hands dirty. And she was a lawyer, but she was also a detective. She would go to the crime scene and go through the evidence, and the police, didn't help her that much. So she had to do this stuff on her own. So she was this kind of, she didn't like being called Sherlock Holmes, but she was this real version of him.
Yeah, like a really smart version.
Yeah.
She seemed very smart. And the crime that I was saying that she kind of fell upon was Sunnyside Plantation. I didn't even know. I learned so much about the United States during that time period. And you do such a great job of marking off the time period so we know what we're talking about here. We know where we are in history. And I was shocked. I mean, this is stuff you do not learn in history class, okay? You just don't, just gloss right over it. And, so she stumbles upon this slave trade, but it's a white slave trade, basically Italians, right? I mean, and she finds these horrendous conditions and people, and then she helps all of them. And in the meantime is, it isn't just, she's like going undercover. Like, she's not just being allowed there. She gets, like, she figures out pretty quickly she's going to have to, like, go undercover to discover
Yeah.
what was going on there, you know?
Yeah, and she's a New York woman through and through. She always wears black, which nobody kind of knows why, but she's always well dressed and well heeled, as they would say. And she follows this case into the South, and just like you said, she realizes, I'm going to have to go undercover. And she dresses kind of like this. At one point, she dresses like an old woman selling scissors. And at one point, she dresses like a man to get into one of these labor camps. And she finds, essentially, a working cotton plantation worked by slaves 40 years after the Civil War. Like you said, they're all Italians that this cotton guy brings in, and has them sign a contract, and they don't even know English, and they basically sign their lives away. And she dedicates, all this time and effort to set them free.
And doesn't she even go overseas to find out exactly what was going on, even from that standpoint? And I guess what I got from her, and probably what you were trying to put across about her, is that this is a woman with a big heart. I mean, she almost can't stand any kind of injustice to humans. Not just, we find out the work she ends up doing for women, but not just women. It was just anybody that she feels is unjust, that isn't given their rights, basically.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
She takes it on herself in a time that it wouldn't have been easy for a woman. Not even easy for a woman to do half the stuff she did.
No, it wouldn't have been easy for anybody. Especially, she kind of exposes Sunnyside, the camp, and the politicians, basically say, well, that's okay, but she won't take no for an answer. And like you said, she goes traveling the world, and then she finally finds the kind of epicenter of this human trafficking ring, because that's what it is in Italy, in a barbershop of all places.
Right.
And she goes in the back, and this guy takes out this old book with all these names, and I read it, and, it's so creepy. It sends chills down your spine what she finds. And she, of course, brings all that back, testifies before Congress, and they start, to shut these places down. But you're right, this comes from, it's really funny because my first book was about Superman, the guys who created Superman.
Yes.
And after I did that, everyone said, well, you're going to do a Batman book, right? And I said, no, I don't want to do a Batman book. I want to do something different. Uh-huh. But I wrote this book on Grace, and, she's rich. She wears black all the time. She kind of works outside the law, and she works for justice. She's like Batman. But she's a woman, and she's real. And it's just like you said, it all comes from this place that she just wants kind of every right in the world every wrong in the world, to be made right. And she's the one who's going to do it, which is an enormous burden.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were trying to allude to this, but when you talked about her parents in the back of the book, and you go through what, their a little bit of a summary, I guess you would call it, about them. And was it that after her parents died that she started to wear black? Do you think it was kind of in a memoriam, or what she was going through at that time? And then, I don't know. I mean, I guess nobody will know, but I just kind of took it as like, well, maybe it was in memory of them, and that's how she felt on the inside, Yeah.
No, I think that's it. I mean, I don't know for sure, and there's so little of her for sure that, I wanted to leave that up to the reader, but she starts wearing it after they died, and her dad was the one that she would go to court with, who she was kind of really inspired, I think, to become a lawyer. So I think once she put that on, she kind of had that, had him with her as a kind of role model still as her father, and she never stopped wearing black.
Right. When then she gets, she's doing all that other stuff. She gets a woman off of death row, which I found that story, that was a fascinating story. I mean, that was just amazing how she figured it all out. And I guess after that, they no longer had death penalty in New Jersey because of because of her. I mean, it was a last minute. She found out the story. I mean, I think her heart did belong to women, but it also enveloped just all of human. I mean, but I think that her heart, when she saw women, because like I said, back in those days, women didn't have very many rights. They still couldn't vote, and yet, and then cops are just easily like, oh, it was the woman. Oh, it's her fault. Oh, it's, whatever she did. And she didn't take that. She was like, that's ridiculous. There had to be something more to it. This woman doesn't just kill this man for no good reason. And she works on it until she finds out the truth, saves the woman's life, comes back, and then eventually ends upon the case of the missing girl. And I just want to beg everybody out there who's going to read this book, there is not much about her on Wikipedia, but don't look on Wikipedia. Read the book.
Thank you. Yeah.
Because I do my research at the end. I always want, because I am a lover of authors, I want to read the story. I knew I could have looked her up, but I didn't want to. I wanted to read the book, and then I do my research. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, thank God I didn't read the research, because it's so immaterial anyway. And like I said, there's not much. They just put out blunt sentences, and then just read the book, and then you get the lead up, and you get to experience the book for what it is. And I'm really happy that I did that. So after saying that, after making that recommendation to everybody, she follows upon this case. They come to her. His dad comes to her. His daughter goes missing. And right away, the cops look into it for a couple of days, and they decide she's run away. She's not missing. She, and she doesn't buy it. And I don't know why she doesn't buy it, but she doesn't. She does enough research into the girl and realizes that she just doesn't seem to be the kind of person that would have ran away and not left anything behind. But she goes to extremes. She could have quit long before she actually finds out what happens, and she didn't. Yeah. She just kept going with it and going, and then she gets the guy to help her, Julius
Crone.
Julius Crone to help her, and then he seems like the male version of her, because he starts going undercover, to do what he, and I, like I said, I'm not going to go much into it, but the case is fascinating, and she is a fascinating person. How did you find her?
I found her just by, this is my phone ringing, so should we stop?
That's okay. You can just turn it off.
Can you hear the baby or no?
No.
Okay. So you want to start from how did you find her?
Yeah.
Okay. It was really kind of by accident. I was researching something else and going through, the old newspapers online, and I just flipped a few pages over, and it says Mrs. Sherlock Holmes solves case, and it had this picture of Grace like this, and I said, I don't know Mrs. Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes. I've never heard this before. And I read the article, and I said, and I honestly, for a second, didn't know if it was a short story or real, because it was so, just like you said, just beyond comprehension. And that got me started. And just getting into this case was, really, I don't want to say fun, because it has to do, the start of it is very, there's a 17-year-old girl missing in New York City. It's very heart-wrenching. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's just so many twists and turns to it. Circles within circles is how Grace described it. And, once you got into it, I just knew there was this story here that we could use to think about kind of all missing girl stories that, unfortunately we hear in the news all the time. Not that this was the first one, not that this is the last one. I wish it was, but it's kind of this moment where, you have 20 newspapers in New York City at the time, and you have this missing girl, and you have this woman who will not take no for an answer and trying to find her. And the police has washed their hands of it. I mean, these are kind of the things we see even in the stories today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you know what? We become so numb to it. Especially like I find on Facebook, people post like police things. You just become numb. You start reading it. You're like, oh, okay, don't know. And you just scroll through, and most of the time it's not such a good ending. And, but it's just hard because you see so much of it. It's hard to care,
Yeah.
About that. And even back then, because I was thinking, well, maybe it was so unusual. It wasn't that unusual. I mean,
No.
She found out it wasn't that unusual, and that's why she took measures after everything to try to, make this known to people that this does happen. And, girls were being abused, and people didn't know, or they didn't even care to know. And, so she kind of brought that out to light. But I just want to show, first of all, I'm a hard book cover buyer. If you put it out in hard book, I'm going to buy it. So
yeah, me too.
I can't help it. I mean, that's just, so of course I bought the hard book, and I mean, they've got pictures, you've got some great pictures, but I mean, I love this cover so much.
Yeah, I do
which
too.
is why I always buy the hard book, because I love when you have such a great cover like that. I mean, did you get any input on that? Did you get to decide with your publisher?
Well, I'd love to say that, I did, but it's more of like they made it and then they send it to me and said, this is the one we really like.
Really,
I hope
really
you
like
like it too. And that's the only one they send, so you don't have a choice. But, I love it. I think it turned out great. I'm just so happy with the way they did it. And it went through a couple iterations, but it's really good.
Yeah, I even it has a different feel. Every book to me has a different, feel to it, and this
I know,
printing of this, I absolutely love it. So, okay, so you wrote, this is like your second book now, right?
Yeah.
You wrote Superboys and you wrote this. And is that what you wanted to do? Like, did you know, like, I'm going to be a writer? Is that what you set out to do? Yes? Or did you
it's one of those things you always know, and then you kind of like fight it back for a long time because you think it'd be too hard or nobody will read it, but then you just kind of, so it's a lot of, the quick answer is yes, but then a lot of lucky things happen between, there and here.
And then, like I said, you get this story and you dive into it. You got to do the research. You got to, you've got to get as much as you can. And you do get a lot. It's almost a 400-page book. You get a lot out of this thing. And then, so you put it out and it's like, okay, there it is. It's gone. And then what?
Yeah.
Then it's like, you have to like get your wrap. I'm sure you lived this. How long did it take you? A couple of years?
Yeah. The first one took a lot longer, but this one took a couple of years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you get it out, and you're like, okay, now what am I going to work? Now what am I going to dive into? So what do we have to look forward to?
I'm like right at that spot now, where I've been kind of, it just came out a few months ago, so I've been, it's weird because you finish it and then you don't see it for a long time, and then it comes back. And you're like, oh, I remember you. You're back. What are you doing here? But, I'm in that spot where I'm trying to figure out now. So that's a long way of saying I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is because I'm not sure yet. But I think I have something good. I think.
Well, that's good to know. And, like at least you get to, like a lot of authors, like they're putting out 2 and 3 books a year. Okay.
Yeah.
This took you a long time. Like you said, it's like, and then you get it done. It kind of goes away to the publisher, gets printed, and everything in it. And to do it that spaced out. Is that how you prefer to work? Is like more spaced out like that?
I think that's about all I can do. The people that work really fast, I'm pretty much in awe. That's the people that do a couple a year. I don't know how they do that. Sometimes I wish I could write that fast, but I know it's never going to happen. So I've just kind of accepted. But this one was a lot faster than the first one, so I think I am getting quicker. But that, we'll see if that's. I don't know that means it's just different. But I wanted this to have a real, because I used a lot of newspapers in it, so I wanted it to feel kind of quick. That you're finding every day you open the newspaper at this time and you're getting a new story about Ruth Kruger, the girl who went missing, and it was always really, it was either sensational or scary or thrilling. So I wanted this book to be kind of like that. So I tried to write it a little quicker that way.
Well, and that's what I loved about it was that I felt like it. That's why I was kind of comparing it to historical fiction was
Mhm.
because when you're reading a book and you're learning and it's reading like a novel. I mean, this book is read like a novel, but it's true. And in order to do that, I know it seemed like as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. It's such an easy read. Well, easy reads are not easy writes. Okay, that means you put a lot of work into making it write like a fiction book and like a novel, and that's
Yeah.
not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, well, I didn't want people to just open it up and read a Wikipedia entry, because
Right.
I hate doing that. I mean, I like history a lot, but if I read a history book, I might fall asleep. So
Right, exactly.
I really wanted people to learn her story because it's been lost. And I knew the only way I could do that is to make it, kind of like that whole time, which was, again, that word is sensational. Everyone's competing to have that big story, to make it kind of like that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, because it is a story. I mean, these are stories that and hers especially that have been lost, but ultimately they're not entries in an encyclopedia. They are stories. So I wanted to tell it like that.
And you did. I mean, you did bring her to life. And, the fact that, first of all, I think it would make a great movie. Just saying, for anybody else. I vote. I vote movie. This has the makings of a movie. I mean, it really does. And they love the movie industry loves this. I mean, they love finding stories like this that were true, and you found it. It's like finding this nugget and then expanding it and making it into a book. And they usually love this kind of stuff. So I'm just saying, it would make a great movie. So, I love what she said
We'll
too.
see. If I had any wood around me, I'd knock on it.
I know,
yeah.
Me too. I was looking. I'm like, yeah, my cabinets are not real wood, but we'll knock on them. But another thing that I loved about her, there's so much I loved about her, but as a woman, but I love that when she would be interviewed, they used to ask her what she thought about the women's right to vote, because that was a big thing back then. And she was like, I don't care if women vote or don't vote. I don't have time. Because she worked. That was another thing. She worked. Like somebody asked her, do you work 20 hours a day? And she was like, no, just 17.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for a woman who, like we said in the beginning, didn't have to work, like, that is craziness. That's the passion that she had about her work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the first time you read that, you're like, oh, she's not for suffrage. I mean, this is,
right.
What do we think about this? But it's just like you said, she just didn't have time for it. She said if they get the vote, great. If not, it wasn't her thing. It wasn't her passion. Her passion was, finding out the truth and setting people free. And she said, I work 17, 18 hours a day.
Right.
When's the last? I don't know the last time I worked 18 hours a day.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Especially somebody who doesn't have to. Like, that was her heart. And I was thinking the same thing when I first read it. It was kind of shocking because I was thinking, well, why? She's the first woman to be a district attorney. Okay, U.S. district attorney. Why is she not thinking that it's a good thing for, why is she not caring, especially at that point? I bet it was a huge political thing, like you had to care, or if you didn't care, who were you if you didn't care? And they're, women probably being like, you need to care, you're out there. But her thing was like, I don't really care. That wasn't her thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it is shocking because I thought she would be political, but she wasn't. It wasn't about politics, except for in the realm that it can help her solve crimes. Then she wanted politics.
Yeah.
That was all she wanted it for, not for fame or fortune or anything like that. She just wanted it for what it was going to help her do, and that's what she used the government for.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I think that's it.
So. But anyway, well, thank you so much, Brad. I just want to show everybody this cover again because it is an amazing, amazing cover. And I highly recommend reading this. And like I said, stay away from Wikipedia. It doesn't do her justice at all. You did her justice. So
thank you. That made my day. I'm better than Wikipedia.
You are way better than Wikipedia. I was shocked when I read Wikipedia. I was like, wow, when he said he had to research this, he was not kidding because you didn't just go to Wikipedia for your stuff.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a while. I'm gonna have to go look. Yeah, it's pretty thin.
Yeah,
It's
not
pretty
much,
thin.
but thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for writing an amazing book. I cannot wait to hear what you're up to next. Please keep us in touch because I know it'll be awesome. So.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank
you.
you.
We can chat again. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Brad. Have a great day. Oh,
Thanks,
and for everybody out there, all your links are going to be on there. No worries.
All right, cool.
They'll be able to find you, Facebook, Amazon page. They'll be able to find the book. Everything will be on there. Oh, and are you doing any tours that you want to tell anybody about?
Just here and there. Nothing too extravagant. They'll be on if on like all those links and stuff. We'll have.
Yeah, if you're on like Facebook, you can keep it up to date.
Yeah.
So, great, awesome. Well, thank you so much. You can now go to your baby in case he's crying.
I think he's asleep now. So if you heard that, during the that's just added authenticity to the life of the author toiling away. I'm really not a bad parent, really. He's
Thank you so much, Brad. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.